what's gone on with that, but maybe you could tell us a little bit.
Let me, well, I can tell you about how it came to pass. It's sort of a bit of a long story, but I think you'll enjoy it. As Larry was saying, I'm originally from Toronto, and my wife and I started out writing educational bridge software. This is the sort of thing we did. It's a CD-ROM that makes you a better bridge player in theory. And one day, in around 1995, I believe, I was sitting at home and I answered the phone, and somebody said, "I really like your software. Can you please tell me what more you have?" And I gave him the standard sales pitch, and he said, "Okay, I'll take the following items." And this sort of thing happened a few times every day. That's how we made our living. And when I went to take his name and address, he told me that his name was Warren Buffett. Now, I had heard of Mr. Buffett. I had a vague idea of who he was, so I asked him if it was okay if I wrote him a letter, including it with the software, and asking him for some business advice, because I really didn't know very much about business. So I wrote Mr. Buffett a letter, and he sent me this wonderful response. Among other things, he said, "I'd be happy to endorse your product." So now on all of our CD-ROMs, we have a little quote from Warren Buffett that says, "Bridge Master is not only the best learning tool I've ever encountered, it's also great fun." So that helped us sell additional CD-ROMs. He went on to say that he didn't know very much about computers or the computer business, but he would be happy to tell some of his friends in the business community about what we did. So fast forward to about 3 years later, I received another phone call. This person introduced themselves as Bill Gates' estate manager. So I didn't know what that meant. It seemed to me that perhaps Mr. Gates had died, and he allowed me some money. It turned out, though, that why they were phoning me is that Warren and Bill, they actually prefer to, have everyone use their first names, were planning a vacation. They were chartering a private train from Alaska to California, and there was going to be a bridge leg on the trip, and they needed a fourth. Okay. Now, Warren had, mentioned to Bill that this guy, Fred, seems like a nice guy, and you might be interested in meeting him, so they invited me as their fourth. The next day, I received by courier first-class airplane tickets to Bozeman, Montana, and Wyoming? Montana? Bozeman. Okay. I got on a train, I met Bill and Warren, and we played bridge day and night for 2.5 days until we got to Denver, and then I got off the train and flew home. And during that time, I became friends with them. Since then, on a number of occasions, we've played bridge together. Sometimes we play socially. We go to Bill's house or Warren's house and just sit down and play. Sometimes we go and play together in tournaments. Sometimes we play on the internet. And I can tell you that, playing bridge with these guys is a pretty interesting experience. For one thing, it's completely refreshing how down-to-earth they are. That it's really just like playing bridge with anyone else. And it doesn't matter that they're two of the wealthiest, most successful people, perhaps in history. They just love the game, and bridge really, breaks down a lot of barriers. You don't feel like you're playing, with these historic figures. They're just two guys. They have wonderful senses of humor. Their, depth of knowledge about all subjects is incredible. So, I feel very lucky and privileged to have had this opportunity. Now, about 5 years ago, our business had expanded to the point that we didn't really know how to run it anymore. My partners and I are bridge players, we're computer programmers. We learned a little bit about business the hard way and through getting advice from our friends like Bill and Warren, but we didn't really know what we're doing. So we decided to try to bring in some investors, and naturally I talked to Bill and Warren about some advice about how to do that. We got an offer I showed it to Bill. He said, that's a terrible offer. If you'd like me as a business partner, I'll give you about twice as much money. So Bill is now one of the owners of Bridgebase Online. And you know, where company's doing well, I'm happy to say it's a good investment for him. Every month I send him a check with his share of the profits. I don't think it's really changed his life in any way. It's still, you know, a source of pride and satisfaction for me.
I'm curious myself. I think others are about some of the, like how many people are playing online, and I don't want you to divulge what comes in each day, but you know, what's going, is this expanding? What's going on with this?
Yeah, well, I mean, the number that you gave previously was right. Larry mentioned the number 100,000. As far as we can tell, approximately 100,000 different people log into our site every single day. Now, over the course of a week, we believe about 250,000 different people will log on, and at least occasionally about 500,000 people. Now, these people are from all over the world. They range from complete beginners to world champions. They range from 8-year-olds to 90-year-olds. So there's really, you know, just about every type of person. We have representation on Bridgebase Online. Now, the site is free, and one of the reasons I can't give you the exact numbers of how many people log in is because anybody can sign up for as many free IDs as they want. So some people have more than one ID, some IDs are shared by more than one person. So it's hard for us to know exactly how many people there are. Of the 100,000 or so who log in every day, about 10% of those will spend money on our site from time to time, typically in the form of giving us $1 to play in a tournament where you could win master points. Some of our tournaments you could win, you know, more dollars. So that's how we make our money. Is that, you know, the site is really completely free, but we have some premium services that, you know, you have to pay for. So I'm not going to tell you exactly how much money we're making, but we're doing pretty well.
Of course, it's those on Bridgebase Online, right? It's the site bridgebaseonline.com. Bridgebaseonline.com. Okay, and one of the things that's a controversy, and here's the problem with Bridge Online. Now, the ACBL gives master points for this. Not the same. I mean, if you go to a big major championship, you can get a lot of points and gold points and all that. Online, they've agreed to give master points, but not the same. And the problem is, as some of you probably are wondering and imagining, there's a big problem potentially with Bridge Online. Does anyone know what I'm alluding to? You could be on the phone with your partner. Who's to say? I'm playing in a tournament and I call my partner and I say, hey, I have the ace king fourth of spades. I mean, so that's kind of the big problem with this long term. And I know, Fred, of course you've had to address this. So what's going on? What's happening?
I mean, I can tell you that, well, let's start with the ACBL, because from their point of view, we're a bridge club. We happen to be a bigger bridge club than the next 100 biggest clubs combined. I think we run on average about 3,000 tables of sanctioned ACBL bridge every single day, but we're a bridge club. And every bridge club that's sanctioned by the league has a responsibility to do everything they can to make sure that cheating doesn't take place in their club. Now, everything we can do is different from what a real-life club can do, because as Larry correctly mentioned, there are different ways you can cheat online that are difficult to detect. For example, if you are on the phone with your partner, we're not bugging your phone line. We have no way to know that you're doing that by direct evidence anyways. That being said, there are various techniques we can use to detect this sort of thing. Most of them are statistically based. Okay, one of the nice things about playing online bridge is that every bid you make and every card you make is recorded. So it's very possible for us to look at every hand you've ever played and see things like, well, that person has never found a losing opening lead, and or that person has never bid a contract that had no play at all. And we know that even the best players in the world, people like Larry, will occasionally find an opening lead that...
More than occasionally, I'll get the long opening lead.
Okay, so when we see things like that happen, it raises a red flag. And, you know, we get reports every day of people that are highly successful opening leaders. And if the threshold is passed that we think this is not humanly possible, we'll get human experts to go and look at all of the hands they played. And we'll see things like, you know, somebody's on lead against Trump, and it's a much easier problem than the one that Larry just